Okay, I bought this set that is called Baku 1960, from 1960, because probably Kasparov played many of his games when he was young on this type of set. And from my library, chess library, I found this book written by Grandmaster Henley. That is really beautiful because he put a lot of diagrams, a lot of arrows to explain the maneuvers. So I hope that if you have a chance, you will buy it too. I don't know if it is still in print. I'm sorry, but I really like it. Honestly, I really like it. I can show you that what I say it's true because you can see the great job he did. Okay, and today, thanks to this beautiful light that we have coming from the window, we can finally enjoying some natural light. I would like to show you a game number 4, Garry Kasparov against Leonid Yurtsev. It was played in Moscow, 1981. Kasparov begins with d4. And this is very interesting because I remember in those years they were thinking if you play d4 you are just in for a long strategic game in which you will squeeze your opponents. But this is not the case. Okay, this is not the case. In reality, Kasparov really created this incredible way to play with d4 in which he wins continuously. And let me pause it. Stop it. Okay, so after d4, black played knight f6. So practically we see that Kasparov came and changed. That's why he was a great player, not because he won the world championship, because he had an actual influence on the way we play chess. Okay, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. And this is the Ninso Indian defense. Okay, it was named after Aaron Nintsovich, a famous player that wrote 2 books, My System and My Practice. Very important for those who want to understand the middle game. Okay, what does white play here? He plays e3. E3 is called the Rubinstein system, from Akiba Rubinstein, a very famous chess player that was never a world champion, but in the time of Capablanca he was there. Between Alekhine and Capablanca he could have been world champion if he was lucky, but unfortunately some people don't have that luck, and some things happen like World War and they lose everything. Okay, so after e3 he continued with castle, bishop d3, d5. So also black is occupying the center in this case. Okay, as you can see in the beginning there is always this fight for the center, which is very, very important. So c takes d5, e takes d5, knight g e2, knight b d7, castle. After which there is c6, sorry, and f3. This f3 is a very interesting move. Why? Because obviously is telling you that white wants to push the pawns. Pushing means that he wants to gain space in the center. c5. Obviously, as you can see, black also tried to strike back and gain space in the center. but here white plays a move that asks black, what are you going to do? What do you think is this move? If you want to think a little, which I would advise you to, because in this way you try to learn while watching this game by Kasparov. If you would pause the video, think for a little, like 3 minutes, and then, oops, you start the video again and see if you got the right answer. Kasparov played a3 because he's asking the black bishop, are you going to take or not? What are you going to do? And the black bishop doesn't answer. He's a mute. But his answer, the black answer, is c takes d4. So this kind of move is called Zwischenzug, or in between, because he could take there, but he will take back, right? So Kasparov asked the same question again. How? Taking back the central pawn. Okay. And now, of course, there is also another advantage of this move, that it has opened this diagonal. Okay. So what does black do now? Black played bishop e7. And why did he play this bishop e7? Well, you must know that in top level games or in title plays like Master, FIDE Master, International Master, they don't want to lose the bishop pair, because the bishop pair is really powerful. And so that's why he went back on e7. Okay. However, sometimes you would give the bishop pair up if you get an advantage out of it. In this case, there was nothing that black would gain from giving up this bishop, playing bishop takes c3. Okay, so that's the reason why he didn't play bishop takes c3. What did white play? Again, here I would advise you to pause the video a little and just think 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, and see, oh, what should I do in this position? Okay. And I will show you the move played by Kasparov. Kasparov played knight f4. Why knight f4? Because he's pressuring the black pawn on d5. Okay. So what does what does black do? He needs to defend that pawn, but how do you do it? He does it playing knight b8. Okay. Of course, it's possible that this move would have been better, because in this way you have 1, 2, 3 pieces. But thanks to this move, we have a little masterpiece. So, what would you do if you were white in this position? Once more, I ask you to get your 3 minutes clock, turn it, and think a little. What would you play if you were in Kasparov's shoes? Or maybe, I don't know, if they were shoes, sandals, or what he was wearing at the time. Okay. He played g4. So why he played g4? This is to gain a king side initiative. He's practically starting an attack on the king side. How do you start an attack? Gaining space. Because when you take away the space of your opponent pieces, they generally try to make mistakes because they don't know where to put them, and so on and so forth, right? How did black continue? Black continued with bishop d6. That is not a good idea. Probably the best move was knight c6. Bishop d6, not so good. But let's see what happens, okay? Now, white plays a move that is very, very interesting. Why? Because you must understand the grandmaster mindset. The grandmaster mindset is that before really launching a great attack, you prophylax everything, which means you avoid that your opponent can have a counter attack. How did he do it? In this case, he played king h1. Why? Because he wants probably to push this to open the file. He cannot have the king there. At the same time, he needed to put it in a safe place, right? King e8. And now g5, like I told you. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. So why g5 makes sense? Because, like we said before, do you remember? He was putting pressure on d5. Now he's taking away a defender. And so black is asked a question. What are you going to do? How are you going to defend this? And of course, black's solution is to give up the bishop pair. Okay? And now he plays knight h5. And black is attacking the bishop in the hope to gain time. But in these cases, you don't give time to the opponent to organize himself. You really need to attack with every single move. And so, again, you should try to turn your clock and think for a few minutes, pausing the video, and decide what you're going to play. Kasparov made an incredible move. Bishop takes b8. Boom. Why? Because, yes, it's giving up the bishop pair, but it's not giving up time. And he wants to attack. And that's why I love to show you these games by Kasparov, because they are really beautiful attacking games. And so maybe you can learn from them. But what is the reason behind this? That he wanted to free this square for the attack. So once you take, he plays f4. And this is under attack. Right? Now the only way to defend that knight, otherwise it's lost, is to play this. But when you play a move like this, you have created a lot of weak squares. You have created weakness in your side, the castle, right? And so that kind of weakness can be used by your opponent. How? In this case, Kasparov developed his queen. Queen f3, which obviously can go once or in the side. You see, it's activate the queen, the idea, right? So that's the queen activation. After that, black tried to play this move, b6, because he could defend his weak pawn, okay? Which is the d5 pawn. And notice that the king is there, right? So this could become a very important diagonal. Let's see how he continued. After b6, Kasparov played f5. Wow, beautiful move. So as you can see here, there is an attack on the king side, and it's really strong, right? Okay, black plays rook b7. Probably this is very important, because if white will try to give checkmate, the rook b7 is defending already the 7th rank. So how do you make this rook useless? This is kind of interesting. You make it useless by playing this move, f6. Because if the queen can enter on the h file and remove this, no? At that point, to give a checkmate, it can be easy, right? And also this blocks this pawn from moving. So what do you do? It's kind of problematic, yeah. Okay, bishop e6 is how we continue to defend the central pawn. Rook A, E1. Finally, we are at move 22. That rook comes into the game. Queen D6 and Rook E5. So why is this move good? Because this is called outpost, and also it blocks, as you can see, the black pieces. Rook D8, Queen E3, and obviously now white is trying to, as you can see, occupy the dark squares. Let's see what happens. B5, Bishop E2, and obviously why Bishop E2? Because like I told you guys, he wants to go there to create a win, so he needs to remove this piece that is a defender, right? So what does black do? He plays b4. He takes b4, rook takes b4. So while black is trying to get counterplay on the queen side, white is busy to try to get a winning attack. And of course the winning attack starts now. Bishop takes h5. G takes h5, and now what would you do? If you were white, what would you play? Again, you must understand why I am showing you these games, because they are teaching you all the tactical themes that one needs in the game. So eventually, pause the video, use your thing, and decide what you would play as white. This is very, very important if you want to learn chess. You need to think, okay? If you just watch the games one after another, you're not going to learn anything. But I believe these kind of games are very, very instructive. White played g6. Wow, this is a clearance sacrifice. Why? Because I told you he wanted to go on the h5, right? He want to go here and checkmate here. That's it. So what does black do? Black practically can answer only with this move, because if he answers with this, he loses immediately the bishop, and so the material, it's bad. So he plays this, h takes g5. But again, like I told you guys, this is Kasparov. So try to pause the video again and try to find what is the next move played by Kasparov. And so maybe here you already see why in the 1980s he was one of the greatest player. Because his attack. Is, I mean, it's terrible. To play against this guy is scary. He played rook takes e6. Boom! Again, this is another sacrifice, right? But in this case, it is a deflection sacrifice. F takes e6. And now there is queen h6. So he penetrates in the enemy castle, as you can see, and this is a massacre, because here there is a checkmate threat here, checkmate threat here. It's a massacre. So he played this move, and then he resigned. Okay, so why did he resign? Well, I think you should be able to pause the video again and try to see what is the best continuation. The best continuation is probably queen takes g6, king h8, and now f7, cutting the king from anything. And notice this is checkmate, right? So what do you do, right? I don't know. As you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful game. I hope you enjoyed it. and let's see you the next time. Again, give this book a try, because Grandmaster Henley really did a masterpiece. I think it's really beautiful to follow this game. I like very, very much, and I think he deserves everything he can for a beautiful book. But unfortunately, sometimes some authors are really good, like Grandmaster Henley, but they don't become mainstream, and I don't know why. Because again, I really love his books. He is really a great writer. Thank you very much for watching.